got them the bottle. They started feeling fantastic after 2 or 3 weeks. And of course, now I'm a couple months into it.
My name is Lauren Marie Capello. I am here from Evolv. And if you could tell me a little bit more about you, what your name is, like your official title and introduction.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lauren, over the airways. My name is Tim Shaum, and I hail from New Jersey, but at the age of 5, got the opportunity to grow up in South Florida and have lived there ever since. I grew up in an educated house, so my parents made me go to college, and I took it with a smile, and I went and got my first big job in hotel restaurant management. And at that stage, at the school stage, is pretty much where I knew I was somebody that was going to quietly figure out how to use the brain and the body appropriately to do things that most humans thought would be humanly impossible. And because it was a way for me to challenge myself and have things working in the background as far as purpose that allowed me to excel in my personal life as well as in my professional life. So in hotel restaurant management, I aspired to be a general manager, managing partner, also became a director, was working at casual dining to start. And then I went to the premier 5-star 5-diamond, the Breakers Resort on Palm Beach Island. And I kept pushing from there. And this was kind of my business push. And at that stage, I decided to take my charisma as well as my voice and advocate for patients with type 2 diabetes, cholesterol, and hypertension, where I was a specialist in sales and marketing for a large medical device, pharmaceutical, and biotechnology company. And at that particular stage, I decided to segue into what I do now, and I am a patient care manager for the United States for the largest men's clinic for restorative health. And I have decided to take my charisma and my voice at this stage of my life and actually advocate for men that are in the middle age of their life or entering the backstage that are cool with wrinkles and gray hairs, but would love to maximize this vessel on this earth and enjoy every moment while we're here, because to me, that's living.
So how did you segue
Yeah.
from, what you're doing now to the extreme sports?
Actually, that started off at the beginning of my career, where it was the first time in my life where I actually went from fat to fit. I happened to be one of those people that was a huge athlete in high school. I happened to specialize in soccer. I went to college for soccer. And then when I got out, I was so done with the two-a-days. I was so done with the strict discipline that I thought it would be a good idea to just throw all of that to the wind that I had done for like 23 years. And I thought that would be a good idea. And I actually gained about 80 to 90 pounds within about a 2-year period, because I was launching products and I was having a lot of interactions with healthcare professionals over meals. And in my family, it's kind of polite to eat with the person with you, and I wasn't watching it. And I also had given up my my exercises. So unfortunately, I definitely gained some weight. And it was the first time where I started literally at phase 1, which is kick my butt out of the house and walk down to the clubhouse and get on the treadmill and walk literally a mile. And it started from there, 2 miles, 3 miles. And then eventually I got to sort of this, 5-mile range. And I started to look at races because I wanted to take it competitively. And I'm like, oh, so a 5K is really like 3 miles. Okay. All right. So that started to open up, I guess you could say, my mind to excite me about what to do with my body beyond soccer at a competitive collegiate level. And at this stage, I trained the brain to learn about compartmentalization, learn to treat the brain as pretty much the largest, best computer that I have in my body, and definitely had figured out the formula that the brain overrides the body 100% of the time, as long as you know what direction it's going in. So for me, I started low, 5K. I probably did 10 of those. Then I did 10K. Then I did 13.1, then 26.2, and I literally did them in order, just like building a pyramid. And at that stage, I did about like 20 marathons, and I was getting, I guess you could say, bored with myself. And I had a friend come to me and he said, "Hey, you can cycle, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "You can swim, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Why don't you try triathlons?" I'm like, "Okay, let's try it." And I actually started at the ground there. I did a sprint triathlon, an Olympic distance triathlon, a half iron triathlon, and then I started specializing in longer distances like Ironman events. And today I stand before you a 10-time Ironman and a 2-time Ultraman as the 723rd person in the world to do that, which is 321.6 miles, where I got
Oh
to
my
represent the
goodness.
United States, which was super cool. Yeah. And of course, a nice number 10 in America is nice. So it's a nice
Hmm.
round number. And I actually stopped there. And that's where I decided to take things beyond iron distance, which most people think is very tough. And that's where I
Hmm.
entered into much deeper categories and depths of athleticism that brought the brain and the body to completely different areas, like doing 200-mile ultramarathons in the mountains of Colorado or Washington, where it takes you, 2 or 3 days to complete it, and you're doing that all in one sitting. And that's really where I took things, was multiple day events, to take things even further as far as what the body and the brain could do. And then I really started to enjoy myself because I had built a great machine with the brain and the body, where I started to do multiple day self-supported races where we would carry all of our gear, all our food, our
Oh my
backpack,
goodness.
or excuse me, our tent broken down. And then we would do, like 50 miles a day, build the tent, sleep in the tent, sort of eat powdered and rehydrated foods. But it was the best breakdown ever. No cell phones. Everybody was from a different
Hmm.
country, so everybody was sharing each other's culture, and it was amazing. And I love doing those things today. I spent so much time on the road, though, that I have taken my running almost strictly to trails at this stage. So I go off road for my nature. And then I also mountain bike. So I'm still off road there. And when I do my swimming, it's always an open body of water, like an ocean or a lake. I don't tend to get into a pool.
That's awesome. So, like it seems like you've been testing your physical and mental limits like a ton through all of these different activities. Um, Maybe you could share some strategies or practices that you use to maintain your
Yeah.
mental resilience, like during those tough moments in a race.
Yeah, the first thing is you have to fuel the body and the brain appropriately. During those races, the first thing is you need sugar, and you need good sugar. And I'll leave all y'all's opinions on to what good sugar is today. But if you want to know my secret, I actually use fresh squeezed cane sugar. I go down to
Okay.
Miami where they press it fresh, and I get like 2 or 3 gallons of it, and it is pure sucrose, but it is purely from the planet, the way the heavens made it, and it is great for exercise. But the other thing is making sure that you're fueling the body every hour, making sure that you're getting in the proper amount of calories that you actually lost by using cool eye watches and Garmin watches and Coros watches and things like that. But to make sure that you stay hydrated, to make sure that that the color of your urine is the proper color, which is a heck of a detector if you're not feeling it at that particular stage. But fueling the body and making sure that you're hydrated is huge. But the other big thing is figuring out how to dig into your own Pandora's box for that 1 or 2 things that really, really mean something to you that you do not pull out often, because when you pull it out, it has to have impact. And so for me, when it gets super tough, the first thing I do is slow down, and I don't stop. That's the biggest thing. If you stop, the body stops, and then the brain kind of usually follows beyond it. So I usually tell myself to slow down, keep going, and then I think I go into the reserve tank, into my own Pandora's box, where I have these 1 or 2 things that I'll only pull out when I desperately need them or desperately want them, but I know that it's going to work. So the placebo effect is real when it comes to that.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for that. And I could see how that would help a ton of people.
Yeah.
And just the idea of not stopping is crucial.
Yeah.
So what do you
Yeah.
do when you do stop? What are you doing for like workout recovery? How do you ensure you're getting, proper rest and recovery, like after a triathlon?
Yeah, for that, I normally actually shut down for an entire week as far as my regular regimen. It's usually the only time I actually fully shut it down. And I go into much more of a passive recovery where I get
Hmm.
to do less activity, but much more stretching and bending. And believe it or not, I truly enjoy the peacefulness of gardening. So whether it's pulling some weeds or, pulling things out that have died and replanting them and, putting mulch or rocks down that's decorative, all that bending and twisting you're not used to it. So it's very good for the body. And then the other thing that I do is make sure I wear a good pair of compression socks that goes from the knee all the way down to the foot for actual recovery, not just for during the event, and make sure that I put my feet above my heart for usually the first 12 hours when I'm finished with a race, by putting my butt up against the wall, laying on my back, and putting my feet up against the wall like an L.
That sounds awesome. I have to remember to do that more myself. So tell me a little bit about hydrogen water. Like, how did you first hear about it? What was it that piqued your interest?
I think it was, honestly, if this might be dating me, but I think I was first introduced to it by one of the first companies that had come out with it, and it was sort of like an Amway pyramid type model, but the machine was fantastic and the data was fantastic, and I think that was like my first introduction to it, where it piqued my curiosity, only because I come from a huge science background. I understand studies, I understand p-values. So once the data starts to become handsome and you can join that up with how people say that they feel, that's when I start to really get invested. So I watched over the course of the years the amount of studies that came out. It's kind of interesting, the pathway for how popular it is today, but how not so popular it was like 8 months ago. It's this huge resurgence, but the data's not new. The data's new and old and older. So it's been out for a while. It's really the first time in my life in America where I've seen a product come out after there's so much data, which to me is a gap. It's an area of opportunity to be able to help out the world. And I live in the United States. And the one thing I can tell you after just observing myself and observing the public here in the United States is we are 100% dehydrated. You can blame it on the amount of different choices, lack of education on water. I can guarantee you, if you took a random poll and asked somebody, what is the amount of water that you should consume during a 24-hour period, right? Meaning just quote it from the medical books. Nobody would really be
Hmm.
able to tell you that. So if you say to somebody, do you drink enough water as a healthcare provider? And they say yes.
Right.
What are they basing that off of? A full bladder or going to the bathroom many times? But what I notice is most of our hunger in America is dehydration. Most of our
Hmm.
stress and our headaches, that's this gray fog that it just gets us every day. To me, that a lot of this is hydration. We don't have a food problem or a food famine. We
Right.
have a food problem. Or we have too much food. So
Totally.
we're always we're in the fed state. And in the fed state,
Right.
it feels euphoric. So when that sort of dies down, it's kind of like the drug going away, and then you want to give it back. And countries that truly do have a food famine, they know what starvation is. And trust me, it's much more than those what we would consider hunger pangs in America. That again, 99% of that is hydration. But I started to look at the studies, and the progression of things didn't really seem to get like personalized. It didn't seem to get smaller. It didn't seem to get more affordable until this latest resurgence, which to me was a fantastic marrying of things, because to me, the products came out, but I didn't see Evolv H2O to go first as far as the marketing was concerned. And I started to peel back, right? I have questions, right? Because I understand sort of what's going on here. And Evolv H2O to go was the first company that put it out the way that anybody that would understand anything clinically would understand, which is parts per billionth, meaning what are we measuring this on? How is this being tested? And I appreciate sort of some of the gold standards that were hit when it comes to having it independently tested, titanium part, certain things that, again, goes all the way down to this is about your health. It is not a medicine per se, because it's not FDA medicine, but it can be used as medicine. And it was fantastic because I got my first one and I had such interestingly awesome results the first 2 weeks that the third week I had already purchased a bottle for the lab techs and the MAs in the office and challenged them. I said, I would buy you one of these if you guys will do 4 double pumps a day at a bare minimum and drink this. And I said, you tell me, because my goal is to give you the gift of health. I could buy you coffee all year, but I'd rather spend money on this and give you this and have you smile at me in like 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. I said, I'm at 2 weeks and 2 or 3 weeks and I'm feeling fabulous. Got them the bottle. They started feeling fantastic after 2 or 3 weeks. And of course, now I'm a couple months into it. And what I find to be super interesting is the compounding effect that goes up and above the original surge of the body sort of turning on different lights that are sort of not really illuminated inside of us. But when hydration does take place, I think you start to find out what a true baseline is, or what your norm is, not your new norm that you've gotten used to because you've put up with it. And to me, the best drug ever invented on the planet is feeling good. And if you could put that in a pill, you would eradicate just so many things, stress and, drug abuse and alcohol abuse, because if everyone was feeling good, it'd be a whole lot different.
I have to ask you, because it sounds like you're pretty up on the H2 studies that are out there. Is there one that impacted you? Is there one that really stands out in your mind?
It actually wasn't one. It was the breadth of information being done in the background, many different ways by many different people. And when we lasso the data in the meta style, to me, that's so much more impressive than just necessarily one, because I'm looking at sort of the breadth of medicine for the info, because it is a little bit new, right? It's not they're not teaching this in school, and you're kind of looking underneath the hood for the question marks. But it's for those that want a little bit more and are willing to just take that step. Maybe put down a few of those things that you're drinking, substitute it in, and give it a whirl. I can tell you, it will definitely make a difference.
That's awesome. And totally, it's already made a difference in my life. And, Will and Chris, their goal was to kind of fill that gap in the market where you could have a superior product that, met all those safety requirements and used superior materials. And we have the independent lab testing. All of that stuff really played a part in their creation of Evolv and the H2Go. Have you tried any of the other options in the market? Because I know you said you've been aware of H2 for a long time. What else have you tried?
Mm-hmm. I have not purchased myself, but I have seen and used floating around in the work atmosphere is hydro. Just because they struck kind of early and they struck kind of hard. For me, it has, some of the poorer data of all of the units, let alone if you want to actually go head to head with, an Evolv H2O to go. I'm sure that that's something that you guys are having to combat just simply due to marketing. But if you go toe to toe with any of the actual data set, it's not a comparison. So it is just marketing at this stage, and that means it'll have its day in the sun. But once you stay the course, you know how it works out over the course of time. You just keep doing what you're doing.
So how does hydrogen water fit into your lifestyle now?
Hydrogen water for me substitutes in for all of my water intake unless I'm mixing it with something. Like if I'm making like a superfood shake out of water, I will just use straight water. But other than that, I keep it with me in my car because it's small enough and durable enough to be able to throw into a briefcase. So it does go back and forth with me, although I'm considering getting one for the office and one for the house just so I don't have to even do that. But hey, that's my setup, right? You got to make your little fort, your little niche. But no, for me, I start at about 8:30. I kind of fit it into my work schedule. It's just because that's how my brain is sort of designed or wired. So I start at 8:30 and I usually stop around 6:30. And that's just simply because I'm trying to slow the whole water intake so I can sleep throughout the night. That's the only reason why I back off is so that can actually happen. But yeah, it pretty much it has taken all of my water consumption. I have using that unless I'm mixing with something. And the nice part is that I have people at work to enjoy this with that kind of giggle. And all of us are involved in medicine, which in the United States is traditional Western medicine. So we all are kind of giggling inside because, you know, we look at each other and we go, I mean, it is just water, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So what differences have you noticed since you started, drinking more hydrogen water throughout the day?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I noticed was, at least in the body, um, when things start to operate well, I consider like you start to turn areas of the body on that might have been at like a 6, but now they're at like a 9 or a 10. Things start to get sharper. Strangely enough, as a guy, I would never normally notice this, but my skin, hair, eyesight's just a little bit more keener. But the sort of that dull fog that I think we've accepted as normal after like a good 8-hour, 9-hour pressing day at work is completely eradicated. It's not there when I wake up. It's not there in the middle of the day. It's not there at the end of a hard day. And it has allowed for the second wind to naturally kick in as opposed to it being beaten down so it can't kick in throughout the course of the day because it's just super tired.
That's amazing. I mean, similar for me as well, but I always love, hearing it from our customers too, because the effect
Yeah.
is really something I feel like you need to
Yeah.
feel it to experience. Then it's kind of mind
Yeah.
blowing.
I'm also one of those people that usually that gets headaches, debilitating, where I'll have to actually sort of take a time out from life for 6 to 12 hours and actually just put it down. And I have not had any stress headaches, any migraines, any headaches whatsoever. Whatever's going on up in the brain area is definitely moving the way that it should, as opposed to the way that it was, because it's noticeable, you know. And there's very few things in this world that you can share with somebody that would allow them to feel better and not create them any harm. And it's a special thing.
Yeah. So how has that changed your life? Like, how has that changed your quality of life? In terms of like your routine, is there anything you're doing differently? Is there anything
Yeah.
you were able to do that you couldn't maybe do before?
The answer is yes. And that is, I can now do most of what I want to do, as opposed to petering out at some stage of the day and fighting with myself of, can I do it? I'm so worn out. For me, it's everything is just served up. And the nice part is that it's even keel. It allows me to know, what good does feel like. And it actually makes me upset a little bit to know, what we tolerate as humans as our new norm. You wake up and you always pop that Advil, or you go to bed and you're always taking 2 Tylenol. It's really not normal, but it becomes normal. And for me to be able to have that lifted, it has allowed me to be completely present for my family and friends. It's allowed me to be much more productive at work because I'm completely even keeled, meaning I can give a good consistent output no matter, what the algorithm is at work, whether it's peak, whether it's slow, whether it's low. And the brain is functioning the way that it should. So, the white noise in between the ears, it's not there. The needle's on the record, and I'm able to focus in on what I need to focus in on for the amount of time that I focus in on it, as long as I take breaks. I figured that out. But
Totally.
yeah, it's allowed me to it's allowed me to do what I want to do. Again, I mean, to me, I think that's the biggest thing I can tell you, is because normally I would have to call it quits at some stage of the day, and sort of have a talk with myself of, am I pushing too hard? And at this stage, as long as it's humanly possible, I'm getting done what I want to do, which is amazing. Because as humans, we normally fit in work and then everything else comes secondary. And in my life, I'd like to even that out or even flip it a little bit. And it allows me to be, just awesome from the time I walk in at work till the time I go home. It allows me to be great at workouts from start to finish. And then, of course, the recovery is rad, right? I mean, you're hydrated going into it, but then, you're constantly infusing the body with everything, for recovery. And so the recovery is just fantastic. And of course, you're not using any powders or, any stimulants or anything that's over the counter. But it's been helped me to be a lot more productive, and it's allowed me to feel good throughout the day. And whenever you feel good throughout the day, you can do the things that you want to do.
Tell me a little bit more about what you noticed with your workouts and your workout recovery.
Yeah, with the workouts, I would say a much more explosive, quicker firing action as far as anything is concerned. As far as endurance is concerned, it's much better, even though it was very peaked out. But for me, I'm always looking to optimize, and the endurance is there. The brain does not have to dig into the well quite as quick. Gets to stay with it, which is again back to that focus. It doesn't get derailed. The needle's a little bit more on the record as far as that's concerned.
That's amazing. So is this something you see, becoming part of your routine for the long term?
Yeah, we're definitely not stopping. And last time I spoke with Will on email, I said at this stage, other than maybe getting myself an extra one, I said I'm getting them for family members or friends, because again, it's a really cool gift. Because
Totally.
just like a lot of things, it's coming in different colors, right? So it's a little bit of personalization, but at the same time, I'm technically giving you the gift of health. Have a little bit of fun with it. Seriously, give it a shot, and let me know. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing moving forward. And I can't wait to see what you guys do with the technology as time passes by. But for right now, this is fantastic, and it's definitely
Awesome.
what I've been looking for.
Awesome. We are so happy to hear that. And thank you so much for spending some time with me today. On behalf of the whole team, we really appreciate you being here. And we love hearing, all of the feedback, positive, negative, whatever it is. And, we're just so stoked that there's a quality product that can add so much value to so many people's lives. Is there anything else that
Absolutely.
you would want to say to somebody maybe who's on the fence about trying hydrogen water, or anybody in our audience out
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, my opinion is definitely try it, because there's no reason why you shouldn't. All you have is upwards opportunity, because you guys have kind of, what I think, cornered all of what most people's major objections, which is, do you have a money back guarantee? The answer is yes. Do you know where this thing's made? Yes. Is it tested? Yes. Does it actually have scientific data that can measure parts per billion? The answer is yes. But more importantly, I know there's only so many people in the world that will watch, but the people that do watch, don't make the mistake of getting something because you're seeing lots of marketing, which is kind of something that we should learn in America at this stage anyway. But don't be so
Absolutely.
confused by the amount of times you see something, or how 4K or 8K pretty the ad is, when there is companies out there trying to do their part to educate about the marketing versus the science-backed data, and to be able to share that gift of health appropriately versus damaging quality science over the course of time by marketing over purveying true science.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tim. It was really great to meet you, really great to chat with you. And we just really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Likewise, you have a great day.
Thank you. You have a great evening.
Bye. Thank you.